Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Carson Wentz blows. Carson Wentz literally sucks. There's a lot of bad offensive line play out there in the NFL. All right, teams don't get swarmed to the point where their quarterback is taking 9 sacks. The ball's flying all over the place. Here's a fumble. It's a loose ball. The guy is horrendous when it comes to pocket presence, when it comes to awareness. He sucks, and it's kind of funny watching it from the other side because Brandon Graham looked like he was 22 again. Fletcher Cox looked like he was 26, right? The guys that were like, yo, what's going on here? We need to see more pressure. How ironic is it when they go to a dude who doesn't know how to throw the football away and is always looking for more when there's nothing even there to grab onto anyway? They look like masterful performances again. I mean, come on, let's put the pieces together. It's because he is horrendous at his job, and it cracks me the hell up at this point. You got dumb tweets being flown out there from Evan Turner, like us Eagles fans and us Philadelphia sports fans are awful people, from going from a supporter to someone who's making fun of an individual. Well, I mean, let me get this straight here, Evan Turner, who sucked as a number 2 overall pick, may I add. When he was good, we gave him his praise. When he looks like this, we mock him and rip him to shreds. He's in control, okay? It's not us. Don't blame all the fans that went down to Washington, D.C. to take over the damn stadium where you're hearing Carson, cheers all throughout. Not even cheers, really. Cheers, I label that as a positive way of expressing your feelings. But come on, man. The dude is horrendous. It's as simple as that, and I can't wait to play them again because that team can't score a damn lick. I mean, it came down to going for it on 4th down, and Avonte Maddox meets you at the middle. Talk about a slot corner going up against the tight end saying, I'm going to win that damn battle. It was sensational for sure. I had goosebumps watching that play. Now, unfortunately, I hated what the Eagles did after that. There was a safety that occurred. A couple things bothered me. Yes, we're going to move into the conversation of what's going on in the second half, but I hated that 4th and 1 call where Pascal got the ball and they tried to get cute with it. Now, people are saying if you just followed the block, no. See, what you're missing out on is when it's 4th and 1 like that and you have a dynamic weapon like Jalen Hurts with his legs or someone else other than Pascal. Pascal's not the option there. The reason why maybe he doesn't follow his block there, he tries to cut short and cut back into the inside, is because you're not utilizing the type of weapon that has that type of mindset here. I mean, that's not the go-to guy. So if you put a non-go-to guy in a go-to situation, this is the type of result. So I didn't like that at all. There was one drive specifically in the second half where they went three and out, and they used like 20-something seconds on the clock, if that, it felt like. But it was a wasted opportunity. All around, though, I'm proud of this football team, and I'm not going to be someone who bashes this and looks at it fully negative. I got 3 negative takeaways, and unfortunately, I probably got to them quicker than I wanted to. But all around, I don't knock 3-0. The Bengals went into Dallas and lost to Cooper Rush, didn't they? Matt Ryan and the Indianapolis Colts just beat the Kansas City Chiefs. The Eagles were on a short week going on the road to a division rival. And they dominated this football game, okay? Once again, it's not as if the second half they look awful and they're pathetic and they're embarrassing. They weren't sharp. But when you have the first half that you have, I think some of those second half play calls, there's sort of a correlation. It's a cause and an effect on why it's playing out the way that it is. Doesn't mean that I can live with this forever. It's been 3 straight weeks. But I heard Brandon Graham say something after the game about it was somewhat of a blessing in disguise what happened with that defense against Detroit, because it was almost like a wake-up call. Yo, fellas, you got to be better than this. If you take your foot off the gas, a team like the Lions will embarrass you. So be better. And I think this team is clearly in the right mindset to acknowledge that this isn't up to our standard, as the quarterback says. And speaking of the quarterback, how about this? When the game was in that weird spot where we're looking at the clock and it's right before half and is it even ticking? It's stuck at 18 seconds. What's going on? And he throws the touchdown pass to Devonta Smith, and Devonta was murdering people all throughout the high point in the football, going and getting body slammed at the goal line. I mean, come on. These are not 50-50 balls. The advantage go to the Eagles. It's wild. It's a wild concept having playmakers. Real quickly, though, going back to that play, it wasn't even in the playbook for this week. So here's Jalen, and he's got everything going and the time and everything, and it's like, okay, we need to do something here. Bang, goes to that play. And look, Devonta Smith makes a play. There was coverage there. It was a tight window. Devonta wins the battle. But that's what you have when your roster is this talented. And I go back to the sideline catch that maybe Ron Rivera should have threw the challenge flag earlier. Maybe there was a bobble involved as Devonta was going out of bounds. But the fact that you even have someone that can make that play, that could maybe get you a lucky call if things do go wrong for the other team, and let's say the refs make a poor call. Jalen Reagor ain't making that catch. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside ain't making that catch. Travis Fulgham ain't making that catch. So the fact that Devonta Smith even puts your team in the position by making that catch, you can have more of the explosive offense. Jalen, go throw it downfield. A.J. Brown just looks smooth when he gets the football. Even the way he there was one time where I was just in awe, and this is pretty dumb, I will openly admit this. It was just the way that he was putting the ball in the different hand. So he makes the catch, the ball's in one pocket of his body, he moves it to the other side as he's running. That's basic fundamentals. Bro, you're a fucking idiot. Why the hell would you ever think that that's cool? It's just the way it looked when he did it, and it just shows what he's all about. I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this. It just looked awesome to me in the moment when I saw him do it on the right side of the field, and I'm like, that's my guy. He gained some more yards. It's some catch. It's some yards after the catch, and he just does it, and it looks so good, and it looks so calm, and it's so easy for him as he blows by defenders. This is new for me to see these type of weapons. So let me enjoy every little detail of the wide receiver position, please. I love the play to Dallas Goedert where he scored a touchdown, taking advantage of some miscues from Washington. Dallas was banged up with the shin. A lot of guys were kind of in and out. Darius Slay. At one point you saw McPherson in the secondary. Landon Dickerson and Opeta. At one point, it was some different guys at the left guard position, and we saw him pop up on the injury report throughout the late portions of the week, and I didn't know. Let's say something was to happen more severe, and you lost Landon Dickerson in the game. Would you slide Isaac Seumalo over to left guard because you know he has a comfort zone there, and then maybe slide a Jack Driscoll? Or do you do what they tell us they like to do, which is keep everyone in their position and then just bounce accordingly? So Opeta goes in. Well, they showed you Opeta. I mean, maybe if the difference between Jack Driscoll and Opeta was a massive, massive jump, they would do something like that. But maybe they also realized that Dickerson wasn't going to be out as much as maybe they thought, and, it wasn't anything too serious, so there's no reason of moving the puzzle pieces around because it wasn't going to be that important to the length of time that Dickerson might miss in the game kind of thing. Milton Williams, Hassan Reddick. I think we're going to see a totally different injury report as we enter this week coming up against the Dougie P's. That's right, the Douglas Petersons. Oh, I can't wait for that. What did I want to mention here in my notes? I think I got to a lot of the meat and potatoes of it, honestly, even though it's only like 10 minutes into the show. But I just look at this now as this is what's expected. This is what the team can do. They're a dangerous ball club. They have some serious wide receivers that are scary. Maybe I thought more would occur in the run game, to be fair, right? Like, I looked at what Washington provides from a defensive standpoint and just thought you could probably do a little bit of everything. could probably get the legs churning and get the run game going a bit and take advantage of some things based off of the run game being efficient. Wasn't really there. And we can go back to what I've stated before this game. So let me get this straight. Against the Lions, a lot of pressure. They won. Against the Vikings, no pressure. They dared Jalen Hurts to beat them. And probably a little too soft, but he did. And now this game, run game wasn't fully to the extent that you think you can do with Miles Sanders and even Jalen Hurts in the run game. But they aired it out. They aired it out. Quez Watkins drawing pass interference calls. Try keeping up with that speed. There's so much going on, and there's so much activity if you're an opposing team's secondary, and there's so much focus that has to go on so many players. Seriously, if Devonta is torching you and having over 150-plus yards, and he finished with 168 or so, 169, at some point, the emphasis is we can't have this guy beat us. Okay. Well, let's figure out who else can. Oh, I can choose one off the top of my head. And then Quez is almost like the guy you forget about. There was a drive. It was 4 plays, 77 yards. This is after Covey. Covey muffs the punt. I can't believe Covey's going to make it back to Philadelphia. My guy was taking way too many shots. I thought that there'd be ligaments just being thrown off of his body as he's getting tackled by 6 commanders. I mean, dude, at some point, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. If you keep doing that, I don't think you're going to be on the field much longer. I think an area, as we're just dissecting here, that they need to clean up too is special teams. We've already seen a blocked field goal. We saw Jordan Davis get a penalty with how he was there in the A-gap. And then they tried Devonta Smith. They tried Devonta Smith as a punt returner. Maybe that's something that they're still going to look at as we continue. But Covey muffs the punt. They had 4 plays, 77 yards. Sanders had a big run. Hurts to AJ for a big first down. Hurts to Devonta. Hurts to Pascal. I'm bringing that up because it's the example of who do you choose. And if you're going to take guys away, we got the next man up and the next guy to do it. And that throw that Jalen Hurts hit to Devonta Smith with the sideline catch that was questionable, come on, right on the damn money. In a position for his guy to come down with it. And he trusts them. He trusts them, as he should trust them. But it's a different type of feeling because this passing game offense stuff with these players out there, come on. They had to pick up Travis Fulgham and hope and pray that a 4-game sample size of elite was actually real. Breaking news, it wasn't. One year they had, who was it? Fulgham, Rager, J-Jaw, Greg Ward. I think they tried Deshaun Jackson that year. Maybe I'm bleeding some years together. Maybe some of them are overlapping a bit. But if Deshaun got hurt, you're running around with Greg Ward, Rager, J-Jaw. These were your guys. Go ahead. Have at it. Now, that's no excuse for the quarterback in Washington right now because McLaurin can play. Dotson can play. Dotson did drop an easy one that would have got them closer to the end zone. But how many throws did you see from Wentz where it was just a little too high? Meaning his wide receiver had to jump up just a bit. Wide open. Wide open with so much space in front of him. Or I should say his back was turned, so there was space behind him because of the Eagles being in control and probably allowing Washington to have the clock milk out a bit. So, okay, you're going to run a lot of plays, but the clock's going to continue to tick. Probably played a role. But it was just that ½ inch, 2 inches, 3 inches. There's a big difference between 3 inches and a ½ inch. But that was enough for the receiver to have to jump up. Probably still should have caught the ball. But I'm just having flashbacks of the pain because if you just hit the dude on the numbers instead of the ball sailing a little bit too up, you're not even in that predicament to begin with. But that's not what I have to deal with anymore in my life. I get to see Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick pummel him to the ground over and over and over and over 9 times. There were some that was O-line dependent, like it was an O-line thing fully. It's on them. It was their issue. There are times where it's like, dude, he's running backwards. He's taking an unnecessary shot as he gets the ball out of bounds. But if you did that a little bit earlier when you recognized the play was already over, you're not falling down to the ground for your 37th time of the game. I'm just spitballing, dude. Let me enjoy this, right? Because for once, it wasn't me that was in the agony. So it's like I can laugh. You know how bad he wanted it to. Come on. He wanted to do so much better. Unless, and I wouldn't be surprised if he looked himself in the mirror after the game and said, "You did a fine job, Carson. You're a damn good quarterback." He's always in denial. He never learns. Is the guy 30 years old yet? What's Carson Wentz age? 29 or 30? He's 29. He turns 30 in December. If you haven't figured it out now, what the hell is the matter with you, dude? I don't know. All right, we'll take some anytime hotline calls. I know that just organically, it's somewhat finding the Carson Wentz angle, but it's hard not to because he sucks. All right, here we go.
It's funny, Hunter. I'm watching the Eagle game. I'm in a live stream, and it's weird when all you're hearing from a majority of the fans is, they're disappointed that the Eagles didn't score in the second half. Some people are chiming in that the Eagles haven't played anybody, etc. I don't know, man. Last time I checked, you don't get style points. There's things to clean up. There's things that can be improved on. But at the end of the day, they beat the shit out of Washington. They're 3-0. And if I saw the stat correctly during the game, 3 of their next 4 games are at home. The Eagles have a chance to go on a pretty good run here if they play their cards right. Just keep winning. Win, win, win. I don't care if it's 24-8 or 64-8. Just win, baby.
I get that to a degree. I was upset even after they won the first game because of Jonathan Gannon, but just to put it in perspective, the reason why is because you don't win these games unless he changed. So it's pointing out something that has to, be a completely different game plan. And you see the difference in the way that this team gets some 3-and-outs, and then the whole personality of the defense shines, which then sparks the offense and they get into rhythm. It is one big group of dudes that right now are playing quality football every angle except for special teams. So really the offense and the defense are finding themselves and kind of giving each other momentum swings, which is fantastic. I would feel different if I didn't believe in this team. If there's a billion question marks and there's reasons to have fear and there's so many worries, there might be a game where special teams bite you in the ass. You're not going to win every single football game. You will fall. Eric Bieniemy and Pat Mahomes are getting into it on the sidelines in a game that they lost. You look at the Buffalo Bills. Things happen, right? I mean, you will lose, and maybe there are some deficiencies that end up being your kryptonite throughout a season. But if your other strengths are so dynamic, they make up for those flaws, then especially if we're talking at a 90%, 85% clip, you're in good shape. Even the teams that win the Super Bowl do have a small percentage of the pie that isn't their greatest. They are just so unreal in other areas of the game, and then you don't really think of it as much. This team has pulse, they have belief, and they have understanding. They're not naive. They know. And we were kind of debating all week long, is this going to be the game where you just fall asleep a little? You're smelling yourself. Jalen Hurts is tweeting after the game, which we never see. He's screaming on the field. He just showed a side of his personality. We're used to the ho-hum. We're used to the rent is due every day. But there was something about the way he popped after that Minnesota beatdown that just looked different. We were wondering if there was going to be some sort of a step back because of that. That was not the case, which then gives me another check mark of there's something here to make you feel more comfortable as they continue to win because, they just keep answering the bell. Were they going to fall asleep? And I looked at Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham as my examples on why they're not. If you have an inexperienced crew, Devonta's young. Jalen's young. Jalen's also not a dumb football player. He's actually a very smart football player. Devonta Smith comes from the Alabama tree. They get it. So even the young players have a pedigree of, come on, dude. You think Nick Saban allowed us to have a hiccup game in week 4? Hell no. You don't get to the national championship if that's the case. So it's in their DNA. Landon Dickerson, it's in their DNA. But Jason Kelce goes, remember 2014, remember 2015, remember 2016. He goes back to his past. This occurs. We make sure this doesn't occur. The leadership in there is too strong. It's too thick. So if you want to be nervous about second half points and all that, you can put it on your radar on things that should be tweaked. Not should be, needs to be tweaked. But where I think you're losing yourself and the disconnect is if you feel they can't, or if you feel they're not strong enough, or if you feel they're unaware. I'm not. And if you could start off 3-0, because think about all those Patriots years. This team's not the Patriots, but just hear me out. Oh, September was tough for the Patriots. They started out 2-2. Is the end of the era over? Oh, they're 1-2 in their first 3 games. What happens in January? They're playing their best. My point is, if you can still shell teams the way that you are, and they're dominating games. They're dominating games. They're not squeaking by. They're not barely tiptoeing Pink Panther sneaking by. They are molly-whopping teams every week, except for when they let their foot off the gas against the Lions. But before that, before Jonathan Gannon, before he figured it out, I'm saying, like, that's what they have done. That's what they've done. They pounded teams into the dirt. They've learned from that mistake. But that's what they've done for 3 weeks. It's not where I'm going to look today. Acknowledge, yes. Expect change, yes. Cry about it at 3-0? Like, this is when you're supposed to kind of be easing into stuff because you didn't have the training camp that the old school people did. And you didn't get many reps. If this is what it looks like without getting many reps, just think for a second what we're talking about here. All right, we'll take another call.
Yo, bro, please say something to these Eagle fans who are crying about the Eagles not scoring in the second half again. Please explain to them when you're up multiple touchdowns and your defense is absolutely dominating that you don't need Jalen Hurts out there running QB options, because those same people who are complaining about scoring in the second half will be complaining when Jalen Hurts gets injured in a blowout and we lose him for the season. Please, school these young boys. Appreciate it, bros.
Well, I do think that's a little too extreme on the other end, where it's like, hey, it doesn't matter at all. We don't want to get Jalen Hurts hurt. That's not really in my thought either. I mean, there is validity to both sides here. The caller is correct by stating, let's breathe. There's no reason to crush the team because of it, and that shouldn't be your number one takeaway when they played with such pride and when they played so well. At the same time, I also think, though, and at the same time, there's the other side to it. That's kind of where my brain just went blank. If the game's 15, the game's 17-17, just say that. I guess there could be 15 points, but just didn't feel natural, okay? Let's say the score's 17-17, third quarter, 2 minutes to go. I don't expect to see the same style of play calling and the same style of game plan being ran. If that's the case, well, then all right. Then my panic meter might start to shift a little and go, all right, well, hold on. Then I'll have more questions. But when you're winning 24-2, 24-0, and maybe you call some plays to bleed off some clock and this. Now, that's why I was a little confused with the big bomb and the 3 plays that took 20 seconds off of the clock. That one was a head scratcher. That one was bizarre. It's like, really? All right. I didn't think it would be the difference in winning or losing the football game. But here's what I don't like. I just took 2 anytime hotline calls, right? And I love my callers, and I can't thank you enough for taking your time to call in. But less about the game, more about fan reaction in the negative light. And maybe I've spent more time than I expected to be talking about that too. So shame on me. I guess I'm feeding right into it at the same time. I guess I just expected a lot of exclamation points, a lot of oomph, a lot of juice because of a big-time win. We'll do some text messages here to throw them in there. at the same time. Yo, bro, Chad from West Philly. How are you, Chad? When projecting this matchup, did you see Miles Sanders being more of an impact player? Always love your shows. Much love. Yeah, I did. I did, Chad. I thought that maybe there'd be a little bit more in the run game just in totality. I guess let me look at the box score here just to look at some of the numbers in the run game. And as you see the 3-0 Philadelphia Eagles, and you go to the box score, Sanders had 15 carries on 46 yards for 3.1 as his average. Hurts had 9 carries for 20 yards. Gainwell, 3 carries for 6. Boston Scott, 2 for none. And Pascal was in there with his 1 for 0. So dumb. Yeah, there were some playmakers up front for Washington. And you got to remember, too, that in the beginning, slow start, actually a couple corners were suffocating our wide receivers through the first couple of throws in the game. And I'm like, really? I didn't see that. And then before you knew it, everyone was getting mossed. And then I went, oh, yeah, that's right. That's what it was supposed to look like. But yes, Chad, I did expect to see that. But, just another thing where next week we'll probably get right back to it, right back to the run game. And it'll be more impressive. Kyle texts in, Jalen is believing in his best friend AJ and Devonta down the field. After watching them compete, how much does this affect Jalen's confidence against better DBs? Remember, they were working this offseason together too. You would assume that's why the hot start is real. Well, yeah, you put in work and get some time in the offseason throwing with one another. Of course, there's probably some angles. I'm just talking about no one in particular, just your team. If you always hear about some guys who are working out at some field in whatever city, the quarterback flies them here and they do this or that. And yeah, when quarterbacks do that, there's clearly going to be a better relationship. But what was the question? After watching them compete, how much does this affect Jalen's confidence against better DBs? The way that's worded, it sounds like it would be a negative way. Like, how would that affect it in a bad way, even though there's only one way to affect it in a positive? Maybe I'm all out to lunch today. I don't think Jalen's worried about that. Is Jalen worried about that? Jalen doesn't seem to be the quarterback that goes, I have to stay away from X, Y, and Z. And there's very few Darius Slays, Jalen Ramseys. There's good corners out there. But do you think, let's bring the Dallas Cowboys up, for example. I'm going to shy away from a particular corner on Dallas? We'll find out. I don't expect that to be the case, though. Because when you see your receivers, to your point, Kyle, do it week in and week out, and he saw it in training camp, and he just knows what his player skill set is, all right, so what? You have a good corner. We have damn good wide receivers who could win that matchup, too. So, good DB, bad DB, average DB. I don't think that's in the mind because they just trust their system. They trust their plays. They trust their formations. They trust their players. And that's the way you got to do it. That's why I hated to hear the answer that Jonathan Gannon, the reason why in week 1 he didn't do certain things with his personnel is because he didn't trust them. Well, how the hell are you supposed to win in this league if you don't trust what you got? I'd rather go down swinging than be a little bitch. So that's where we're going to end today's show. Thank you all so much for kicking it with me. You guys are the best. I appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button.